name's Hido, and welcome to the Pantheon, the show where we have a look at a brand new commander and decide what some of the best cards are for them. Today we've got a nice little uncommon, which is called Dina Sol Steeper, and she weighs in at 2 mana. I don't exactly know how you steep a soul. I guess it means it's something to do with tea she's drinking. Who really knows at this point? But she's a Dryad Druid, and whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Really cool ability, come into play later. And then she has pay 1, sacrifice another creature. Dina Sol Steeper gets +X+O until end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. That is phenomenal. She's going to get absolutely massive. But she's a baseline 1/3, which will do. She will get bigger and bigger. Now, this is a cool little aggro deck that uses some really large creatures to great benefit. And Dina is at the star position for that. At number 5, we have Blood Artist. We want to gain a bit of life so we can trigger that ability and make our opponents lose a bit of life. And what better way than to use her sacrifice outlet to do that? Blood Artist is a 2 mana 0/1. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this aristocrat sort of play is really, really nice. It, pads our life total and our opponents just keep dying. It's really, really good. Zulu Cutthroat, another copy of this effect. 2 mana for a 1/1. When Zulu Cutthroat or another creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Sadly, it is only our creatures, but beggars can't be choosers. This effect is still very powerful. Ayara, First of Lochthwain, is a 3 mana 2/3. When Ayara or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And also, she can tap, sacrifice another black creature, draw a card. Nice bit of card advantage, and bit of life gain, bit of life loss. Pretty good. Essence Warden is a great card in this deck. 1 green for a 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, which will trigger our commander. And this is every other player's creatures as well. So we're just going to be getting a ton of life, pinging everyone. It's going to be great. Bontu the Glorified is a 3 mana 4/6 with Menace and Indestructible, and it can't attack or block unless a creature died under your controller's turn. Luckily, our commander is a sacrifice outlet, and Bontu also has one as well. Pay a colourless and a black, sacrifice another creature, scry 1, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Then Polluted Bonds, slightly different axis here. 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a land comes into play under your opponent's control, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This is just going to ping all of our opponents because they have to play lands. It's an integral part of the game, and we're going to get an advantage off that. Finally, Blood Chief Ascension, 1 black for an enchantment. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Blood Chief Ascension. Whenever a card is put into your opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if Blood Chief Ascension has 3 or more quest counters on it, you may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, you gain 2 life. This can be an absolute game-winning play. This can deal so much damage, and it's not that hard to get the quest counters on there. Really, really powerful stuff. Which brings us on to number 4. Sitting at number 4, we have Slingang Lieutenant. A 4 mana 1/1 goblin. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Sacrifice a goblin, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So this creates a lot of tokens for our other Blood Artist effects, but the sacrifice is actually a Blood Artist effect itself, so that'll trigger our commander as well. It is sadly only sacrifice a goblin, but not too bad. There are a couple of other sort of effects very similar to this. Marriott Master, 6 mana for a 1/3 with Fabricate 3. That means you can either put 3 1/1 counters on it or create 3 1/1 called servos. Whenever an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. This can be game ending, if you built up a wealth of artifacts or you're just pinging them for 1 each time, it's still going to kill our opponents. Boron's Overlord is a 7 mana 6/6 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/1 black harpy creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to black. That means how many black pips exist on your permanent. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Not that big of a downside when you're creating so many 1/1 flyers, but it's there nonetheless. Then my favourite of all this bunch, Weaponcraft Enthusiast. 3 mana for a 0/1 with Fabricate 2. So generally you're going to be putting 2 1/1 servos onto the field. Really, really powerful. 3 bodies for just 3 mana. To go along with these, we've got a little combo. Nim Deathmantle is a 2 mana equipment. Quick creature gets +2/+2 and has Intimidate and is a black zombie with a Equip for 4. That's quite good in our commander by itself. Being able to attack in, with Intimidate, quite powerful. But the main reason we want it is whenever a non-token creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4. If you do, return that card from the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. Then we've got Ashnod's Altar. A 3 mana artifact, sacrifice a creature, add double colours to your mana pool. So, with any of these creatures, Sengir Autocrat is another one who makes 3 surf tokens when you enter the battlefield. We've got a lot of bodies. We can sacrifice all of our tokens. So with Sengir Autocrat, we sacrifice 3 of the serfs to Ashnod's Altar, and then sacrifice the Autocrat to the altar. That'll trigger the Nim Deathmantle. We pay 4 that we've just made off sacrificing the tokens, and then bring it back to the battlefield, creates 3 tokens, and we do this over and over again. If we have a Blood Artist effect on the field, or Marionette Master, or Sling Gang Lieutenant, they will kill our opponents through just the pinging from the sacrifices. And it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. Which brings us on to number 3. Our commander, she's a 1/3, but she can get massive. But the main thing we want is for her to get through to actually deal damage because she has no evasion. Key to the City is a great answer to this. 2 mana for an artifact. Tap, discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. Whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. So, nice bit of card advantage. But the main thing is you can get your commander in there to deal a bunch of damage. Rogue's Passage and Access Tunnel are both lands that do this. Both of them tap for a colorless. Rogue's Passage, pay 4. Tap target creature can't be blocked this turn. Access Tunnel, pay 3 tap. Target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. With Access Tunnel, make sure you attack first, use Access Tunnel, and then sacrifice creatures to your commander. Or else it just won't work because you'll have massive amounts of power. Whisper Silk Cloak is the 3rd version of this. Pay 3 mana for an artifact equipment. Quick creature can't be blocked and has Shroud. That is also great protection as Shroud. It can't be targeted by our opponent's removal spells. Which brings us on to number 2. So what are we going to be sacrificing to our commander? Excuse me. Grothama All-Devouring is a 5 mana 10/8. It's massive and it'll make our commander into an 11 power creature. Other creatures have, whenever this creature attacks, you may have it fight Grothama All-Devouring. So if we had another massive creature, we could potentially fight it. But why do we want to do that? Well, when Grothama leaves the battlefield, each player draws cards equal to the amount of damage dealt to Grothama this turn by sources they control. So say we have a 20/20 and we attack with it, have it fight Grothama. Grothama leaves because it's dead, and we draw 20 cards. That's pretty goddamn cool. But it's also a massive dude that we can sacrifice to our commander. Along that sort of idea, Primeval Protector is an 11 mana 10/10, and it costs 1 less to cast for each creature your opponents control. When it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. So pretty simple. Our opponents are going to have creatures. We can use this for probably 1 mana and then give our commander +10/+10. Really, really good. Galta Primal Hunger along the very similar lines, but this one cares about our power. So 12 mana for a 12/12. But this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control. And it has Trample. It's a big dude by himself, so potentially a 2 mana 12/12 that we can sacrifice to our commander to give her 12 power. Phyrexian Dreadnought is a 1 mana 12/12, just baseline, it has Trample, but it also says when it comes into play, sacrifice any number of creatures with total power 12 or more, or bury Phyrexian Dreadnought. However, in response to that trigger, we have a 12/12 on the field. We can pay 1 with our commander to sacrifice it and give her 12 power just for 1 mana. Pretty damn cool. To go along with these, why don't we draw a bunch of cards? Garruk Primal Hunter is a 5 mana 3 loyalty planeswalker. Can +1 to create a 3/3 green beast token, or -3, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Yes, it kills him, but we're going to draw an astonishing amount of cards. Then is -6, create a 6/6 worm creature token for each land you control. If we get to there, great, but the main thing we're going to do with him is just draw a bunch of cards. Greater Good is a 4 mana enchantment with sacrifice creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then discard 3 cards. All this sacrificing isn't that big a deal because green and black are very good at reanimating creatures. Finally, a brilliant, massive creature, although it doesn't look it at first, Mossbridge Troll. 7 mana for a 5/5, sorry. If it would be destroyed, regenerate it, which means you just tap it and it's not destroyed that turn. Tap any number of untapped creatures you control other than Mossbridge Troll with total power 10 or greater. Mossbridge Troll gets +20/+20 until end of turn, so it becomes a 25/25. And I love this ability. It's basically crew. Everyone's crewing a Mossbridge Troll. They just get climbing into him and making him massive. It's just so stupid. But then you can sacrifice him to our commander, and God, she's got 26 power. Pretty impressive. Anyway, in at number 1, we've got Exquisite Blood. Now, our commander's ability triggers Exquisite Blood. So we gain life, and then this deals damage to our opponent, and it just ping-pongs backwards and forwards. Very expensive card at the moment, unfortunately, but if you play this, you just win the game outright. It's pretty unfair, to be honest. To go along with it, we've got a couple of cool life gain matters cards. Valentin, Dina the Vane, is a 1 mana menace lifelink. If an untoken creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. If you do, you can pay 2. Nice bit of graveyard hate there. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest token that when it dies, you gain 1 life. Nice bit of incidental life gain. On the other side of that card, and the main reason I'd want to play it, Lysette, Dean of the Root, is a 4 mana 4/4. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn. With all this incidental life gain, this can get out of hand very quickly. Turn all of our little fodder minions into absolute beasts that have trample as well. Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, is a 3 mana 1/3 that reads, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Same as our commander. It's just a replacement that goes well with Exquisite Blood. And you can pay 5. Creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. And that is my top 5 cards for this commander. She's quite cool. Can sacrifice big, massive things, but Jared Golgari Lichlord is slightly better in that regard. However, if you want to build this commander, she's quite fun. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Please subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.